coming out. I've had several days now to review the circumstances surrounding the arrest of Ms. Oriana Santos, and I hope I pronounced that right. I'm now prepared to make some comments and respond to the allegations against the two deputies and also the lawsuit that was filed Monday in Baltimore District Court. Let me be clear and say up front that the statements and allegations made in the filing are inaccurate, misleading, and do not include all the relevant facts of this case. The facts will show that Deputy First Class Openshaw and Deputy Doe, as identified in the lawsuit, acted very appropriately and professionally in performing their duties, treating Ms. Oriana Santos very respectfully throughout the encounter and the arrest. I find it deplorable and disgusting that the groups involved in this lawsuit have tried to defame these deputies, the agency, and discredit the two involved deputies and drag them through the mud for what is clearly their agenda in attempting to stop and derail the 287 program here in Frederick County. The citizens of Frederick County, the state of Maryland, and this entire country need to know the facts, and by the end of this press release today, they'll know the facts. The two involved deputies are patrol deputies. They are not trained in and do not participate in any 287G functions in Frederick County. The two deputies were on routine patrol on the morning of October 7, 2008, when the encounter and the arrest occurred. They were making routine patrol checks behind shopping centers in Route 85. While in the car from a distance, they saw this young lady. She was sitting on the curb in the grass. She was eating. When she saw the marked cruiser approaching, estimated at about 100 feet away, she ducked, quickly grabbed her belongings, and moved from the curb to behind a shipping container in a very obvious attempt to hide from view. This action, which can be very reasonably viewed as suspicious action or movement, very logically drew the attention of these two deputies, both while still traveling in the cruiser in that direction. Any reasonable law enforcement officer could or would conclude from her actions that she was avoiding contact with them for some reason. One of those reasons, which happens every day, happens often, is being wanted by law enforcement. Good police work would dictate the contact you made with someone acting suspiciously in that manner, and this is in fact a case of good police work. Both deputies simply got out of the car and approached Ms. Oriana Santos, who was clearly attempting to hide. The deputies made contact with her, asked for her name, and asked for identification. She was not interrogated about her immigration status, as was wrongfully alleged in the lawsuit. Ms. Oriana Santos produced some type of identification card. When she provided her full name to the deputies, they simply ran a 1029 or a wanted check through NCIC. The check came back and she was wanted by ICE on an order of deportation arrest warrant. She would have been taken into custody by any law enforcement officer or any agency in the state of Maryland or across this country. The arrest of Ms. Oriana Santos was not related to the 287G program. Be clear on that. She was taken into custody and transported back to the law enforcement center. According to records, very appropriately so, a suspicious person card was opened at 10:27 a.m. while the deputies were on the scene, and she was placed in custody at 10:35 a.m. After a brief time at the law enforcement center, she was taken to the detention center at 11:14 a.m. that morning. This type of event in contact with wanted persons happens on a daily basis in law enforcement work, regardless of gender, race, or ethnicity. The contact by the deputies had nothing to do with her ethnic appearance, as maliciously alleged by the General Counsel of Latino Justice, Puerto Rican League Defense. The 4th and 14th Amendment rights of Ms. Oriana Santos were not violated, as alleged in the lawsuit. The loose and irresponsible comments of Casa de Maryland, Executive Director Gustavo Torres, that she was jailed because she was sitting outside eating a sandwich, are malicious and totally false. The 4th Amendment of the United States Constitution prohibits police officers from detaining pedestrians and conducting any kind of search without first possessing a reasonable and articulable suspicion. This existed in this case. Clearly, in this particular incident, Ms. Rihanna Santos demonstrated suspicious actions when she quickly moved and attempted to conceal herself from view from the two deputies, again, that were on routine patrol. Unprovoked flight upon noticing the police presents a valid reason for a stop and detainment under Terry v. Ohio, a 1968 Supreme Court ruling, the law that basically dictates the legality of police stopping and detaining individuals. This lawsuit is clearly aimed at myself as Sheriff of Frederick County in the 287G program, using this lawful arrest as a vehicle to forward their agendas of the particular groups that are involved in the filing. In the past several days, these organizations have made no secret in the media that they want to see the 287G program ended in Frederick County. And what's odd about this, it's not coincidental that this lawsuit is filed only weeks after an October 4th, 2009 meeting hosted in the local Frederick church, in part by Counsel for Costly, Maryland, along with the ACLU of Maryland. The theme of the community workshop was openly anti-287G. The sole purpose of that meeting was for advocates and allies of the immigrant and civil rights community movements to assist members of the immigrant community as they complete and file formal complaints with DHS against the Frederick County Sheriff's Office. As of that date, prior to that date, there had not been one single complaint filed against this agency for the program. Now, I don't believe too much in coincidence. It would appear very questionable to me that the arrest of Ms. Rihanna Santos, which was on October 7, 2008, and that lawsuit was not filed until 1 year later. How much clearer can this be? The public should be very clear on the facts that these two deputies made a completely lawful arrest and in no way violated the rights of Ms. Rihanna Santos. I commend those two deputies for good law enforcement work. At this time, I'll take a couple questions.
Sheriff, what was that order of deportation for? And did she come into the country
legally
or illegally?
I cannot comment on any other information from ICE that you'll have to get from them. I'm not free to comment.
And when she was sitting there with the deputies, did she say anything? Could she converse at all? Was there anything that she said?
The only thing that I'm going to make, comment that I'm going to make to that is she was able to convey her name, and she presented an identification card of some type.
How many people have been detained under the 287G in Frederick County?
At the last stats I received were 524 detainers have been filed.
And were most of those people stopped because of a serious offense? You have to get away from this mindset of stopping people. Everybody who has been identified and detained through the program has been arrested, either for a felony, a misdemeanor, or an arrestable driving offenses. We've got to get beyond this mindset of traffic stops or simple detainments on the street. It doesn't happen like that.
Sheriff, you've had nothing but opposition from a couple of groups since you started 287G. Why do you feel it's important to have here in Frederick County?
I'm going to tell you something. I love this country. I believe that we're headed for some big problems. Listen, let's look at Homeland Security. Let's look at 9/11. Let's look last weekend at Fort Worth, Texas. Let's look at the problems we've seen. Let's look at the crime across this country, regionally, just for south in Montgomery County, where nobody steps up to do anything. I don't want that here in Frederick County. I don't want some of the problems that you can directly attribute to uncontrolled illegal immigration here in Frederick County. And I'll do whatever I can to keep it out of here.
Sheriff, I just want to, so I can be clear, they're checked for their immigration status when they get to the detention center?
That is absolutely correct.
Sheriff, it says in the lawsuit that they put her, one of the deputies put his hands on her shoulder and then handcuffed her. Is that normal procedure? Because, I mean, she was only so big. She was about 5'3", 130 pounds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's simply handcuffed her to put her in the cruiser when she's taken into custody. That's normal routine. Yes.
What did you mean when you were referring to Montgomery County, saying nobody down there does anything about immigration?
Well, it's pretty obvious with some of what's going on down there. We are starting to see the impact of unchecked crime in Montgomery County. And I say that because there are known cases where persons who have committed crimes and who are identified as in this country illegally have been placed back on the streets. They fail to address the problem. And now, listen, this is not about Montgomery County. Law enforcement across this country fails to step up and do anything.